Well, after a short hiatus here, I finally have gotten back to mess around with this 114 hydro. I had my buddy Oliver Phil stop over yesterday. Listen, he has a little more experience with these Kohler motors than I do. And I started this, and we definitely have a knocking sound in there. But today, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this cover here and then run it just to make sure that it's not just something hitting that cover. Although we both agreed we think it's more in the engine. But right now I'm going to quick pull off that cover. I'm going to start it. And then if the noise is still there, then I'm going to start doing it what I need to do to take the engine off this thing and start tearing it down. So we'll see what happens here. All right, I got that cover off. So you can see the gas line here. It runs through that cover, so I had to kind of reroute it. But I got the gas on. Give it a try here and see what I can hear. Give it a little choke. I just had it running yesterday. So that confirms, you can hear it kind of knocking up here in the top end. So just wanted to make sure that it wasn't something hitting that cover, because I have heard that cover make some bad noises before. But I think this engine's just wore out. The reason that it wasn't starting and I didn't think about it is there's the throttle cable and all here, and I took the screw out to remove that cover, and so I wasn't getting proper action off the choke nor the throttle cable. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna start tearing this down. I have to take the gas tank off, then I'll have to take that front grill piece off, and then I'll work on disconnecting everything from it and removing it. I won't bore you with the details of doing that because there's a million videos out there guys doing this, but I will walk you through the steps in case you've never done this before. But right now I'm gonna start working on taking this thing apart. All right, I've done a little bit of work here. I started with taking off the gas tank, which I've set over here, and then the front grill piece. Those are relatively easy to take off. The front grill piece is just 2 bolts down there at the bottom. Undid my wiring up here to the starter and all that. I've unhooked everything up to the coil. I took off the electric PTO. I took off the cover. I don't know that I needed to do that, but I got the electric PTO off the shaft there so I could get the belt off. So I think now I drained the oil out of it. So I think now I'm down to taking out, there's 4 bolts at the corners of this, and then I can lift the engine off and start tearing down the engine. Get it out away from, I'll have to take off some other stuff. Probably should go ahead and take off the coil. I'll have to take off the carburetor. some other things like that, but at least I can get the engine away where I can actually work on it, because it's tight working on the carburetor when it's on the engine. So that's the next step that I'm going to be working on here. All right, got those 4 bolts out, as you can see from the bare frame. Got the engine off, lifted it up here. I watched a video that said this thing weighs like 70 pounds. I am here to tell you it weighs more than 70 pounds because I just deadlifted it up there, but no big deal. So just wanted to get it up to where I could work on it at waist level at least, not down on the floor. So unfortunately today I'm gonna have to stop working on this. I've got other things I gotta get done, but I'll continue the video over the next few days as I continue to take everything off this side and then tear down the motor. So the next thing will also be kind of pulling the rest of the main part of the motor apart. I got to figure out, I got a leak back in the hydraulic transmission, or hydrostatic transmission, I need to fix, and then I'll be sandblasting and painting the frame and all those parts, because it's going to be a full restore on this tractor. And while I've got this apart, I'm sure that I will be painting the engine and cleaning it up and making it look like new also. So I got my work cut out for me, but for today I'm going to have to stop and work on a few other things while I still got some daylight, and then we'll go from there. So until tomorrow. All right, I've done a little bit of reading and a little bit of watching YouTube videos, and so I've never taken one of these apart before, but tonight I'm going to pull off the carb, the fuel pump, all the apparatus out here, probably the exhaust elbow and the exhaust spark plug. I'm going to try to get all the external things off this tonight, including the starter, so then I can work on pulling the flywheel and continuing on this thing over. I'm going to try to get this thing all tore down this weekend, but I'm going to prep and do all that stuff. I actually was watching from the iSave Tractors website where they sell a lot of these parts and stuff. He has a YouTube channel himself where he tore one of these down, but in there he mentioned that Kohler on their site, KohlerEngines.com, has a place where you can download the service manual. So I downloaded the service manual today, and this kind of in here has a step-by-step directions on how to tear this thing down. So that's going to be kind of helpful, since I've, like I said, not done one of these before, and I'm a guy that likes to kind of know what I'm doing before I do it, so I'm not haphazard. But that's progress. So I'm not going to probably do much filming of pulling all this stuff off, because that's all pretty simple things. It's a couple bolts on the carb, a couple on the fuel pump, just little things, a couple bolts that I'm sure are going to be not fun to take off on the exhaust manifold, and just pull this external stuff off. So we'll update you when I get that stuff off. So I went a little bit further this evening than I thought. So I got the starter off, and on this side I took off the carb, the exhaust elbow, the points, got all that stuff off. So I went ahead and took the head off. It wasn't too bad. As you can see, the valves are pretty have a lot of buildup on them, and the piston, I don't know if you can see, if I can get the light right, but it says 010 there, so I'm going to guess it's a 10 over piston. The cylinder looks pretty shiny in there, but I noticed if I kind of mess around with the piston when it's in there, it kind of wobbles around. So I will definitely be checking my tolerances on the piston and on the cylinder to see if it's oblonged or what's going on there. And there's the head that came off it. So it came off pretty easy. It was the 2 nuts on there, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolts around. Came right off. So I'll continue working on this tomorrow. I've done a little bit more work on this. Took off the cover here that's on the cam. I got it held up because I needed the tool to take off to do the spring compression. Got the flywheel off. But then I talked to my machine shop guy, and if you can see the cooling fins on this, they're pretty rusty, and I do want to repaint this. And so I need to actually put the head and put everything back on it and seal up like the exhaust hole and all that, so I can sandblast this. And before I sandblast it, as you can see that the side of it is wet with oil and everything, I need to clean that. So my plan today was to do that, take it outside, wash it, then sandblast it, except we have like 40-mile-an-hour winds today, so it's just not real conducive for sandblasting. So I can't put it back together, but I think what I will do is get the sandblast booth going there with small parts and different things. I can sandblast on those inside today. I did have to wait on the valve spring compression tool, but thanks to Amazon that came in a day, so I can work on that. So that's where I'm at today. I'm thinking I'm going to probably drag this thing outside, as much as I do not want to lift it off this table, and degrease it, and this wind should dry it pretty quickly, and then sandblast some things inside, and then tomorrow sandblast outside. In the meantime, I need to walk next door and check the neighbor's house for any wind damage, because last night we had severe winds and tornado warnings, and I think the whole area was up at 2 a.m. in their basements because it was bad. A buddy down the road, I stopped by his house this morning. He had an old chicken house that was blown off its foundation, like turned 45 degrees from where it had been, and then part of the first floor is a block wall on his west facing wall, and about 25% of that got blown in. And now with this 40-mile-an-hour wind today, for all I know, that might have blown all the way in, and then he probably lost that end of his barn. I haven't talked to him this afternoon. And yesterday, I took the day off work and just messed with some things, but I went over and helped my buddy Josh get an old 4000 running and a Ford 860. We worked on his Farmall H, but the starter needs rebuilt. So just doing little projects, helping other people out. But I'm gonna get this thing cleaned up and then get a sandblast, and then I'll tear it the rest of the way down. I'm interested to do this valve compression tool, spring compression tool, because I haven't used one of those before. Since it was so nasty out yesterday, I spent some time in the sandblast cabinet. Got all these parts blasted, and this morning I pulled off the seat pan, the other floorboard, a couple other parts. I'm going to be sandblasting outside today, so I'm going to sandblast the engine before I take it to the machine shop. So I got it out here, and yes, I put it on a hand cart because it's a lot easier to move around that way. I got the hood, the floor step plates, the rear seat pan, the front grill piece. I'm going to blast all those out here. I tried doing this in the sandblast cabinet, but previous owner put bad paint on this on top of the original paint, and it just takes so long. And so with the blaster outside here, it should burn right through that. I'll just be careful on the hood so that I don't and on the seat pan so I don't warp anything, but should be all right. Normally use a 1/2-inch hose when I'm blasting, but I don't have my air dryer set up yet, and for the spring, because it freezes in the winter. So I'm going to use a regular smaller hose today, so that'll also help so that I won't get any warping. So I don't know if any of y'all sandblast, but it's not a fun day. Fortunately, it's a little chilly out, so I can I'm not going to sweat to death doing this, and get these parts cleaned up, and then keep working on tearing the engine down after I get it blasted. And this is how I do it. I put a tarp out to catch as much of my media as I can. I use garnet, so I will catch as much of that as I can that doesn't blow off the tarp and reuse it in my sandblast cabinet. I have a air drying system here just before it goes into the sandblast unit, and then here's the engine after I quickly went around it and sandblasted it. So that's where I'm at. Next thing I'll do is move the engine off here and put these parts on and start working on these. All right, done sandblasting for today. Got everything done, as you can see. Got all the paint off of the seat pan and the front aluminum grill piece. And the other piece where the hydrostatic lever comes up through, or most of it. Probably a little more cleanup on these, but I didn't sandblast. I wired wheeled everything until a few years ago, and then I started sandblasting, and it's been a game changer. So engine's done, all these parts are done. Got quite a bit more to do on the tractor itself, but I will say there was a lot of paint on these floor pieces, and the hood came out pretty good. It's kind of weird, there's a ring on there where somebody must have set something before you painted it, but got it pretty well cleaned up. So next is I'll get the engine back in here and get it back on the stand, finish tearing it down, and then I'll work on stripping this. I do have a leak in the transmission on this, and I need to get that sorted out before I go too far on that. So no experience with those hydrostatic transmissions, but I have a feeling I'm about ready to get an education, because I got to figure out my leak before I paint. So that's where we're at. My ears are ringing from sandblasting. I always forget to put in earplugs. It's something I gotta remember to do. So I will probably end this video here, and then update you when I make more progress here in the upcoming weeks. Like I said, I'll just pull the engine the rest of the way apart and take the parts to the machine shop and have him look it over, tell me, like I said, it's got 10 over piston in it. I'm probably gonna end up going 30 over. So I gotta get that stuff figured out. So until the next time, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you all are learning stuff. I'm having kind of fun on this little project.